Hi everyone, nubkeks here, and welcome back to Nub Raids. In today's video, we're taking a deep dive into these fellows up here, all up here, all the different shard types, apart from mystery shards, right? But ancient, void, sacred shards, when should you be pulling them, and what results can you expect from doing so? Okay, this video is actually very much inspired by none other than Murder Inc. I think it's fair. I think his video probably inspired by my Geomancer video here. I actually haven't watched it yet, so I won't say for sure, but I will say for sure I'm absolutely taking huge inspiration from this video he did right here, where he argued that for free-to-play and low spenders, that summoning during 2x events or 10x summon rush events was bait. It was a trick, it was a trap, and that you shouldn't do it. So I'm going to be taking it from this. And ultimately, spoiler warning here, I ultimately disagree with his opinion. But at the same time, I thought he made some really good and interesting points that actually, I think, makes it important to reassess and to take a look at how this stuff is actually going and how it actually works. So any further ado, let's dive in. Now, first of all, I want to just look at the guaranteed champion events, because it's very interesting, and this is what he's recommending, but there's some really interesting trends here. So this actually started in March 2021. We're currently at time of recording in January 2022. We haven't had one quite yet. It's the 10th of January. I'm recording this. I haven't had one yet. But interesting stuff happening here. Let's do sacreds first. There are only 2 sacred events. We had one sacred event, which was the second ever summoning, guaranteed summon, which was on the 18th of June for Helior for 15 sacred shards. That was the only legendary from sacreds guaranteed. Then we had Rector Drath on the 31st of December, who was guaranteed an epic for 4 sacred shards. My expectation for 2022 then, based off of this, I expect pretty much the same deal for legendaries. I'm expecting 1, maybe 2 good legendaries going up for about 15 sacred shards. I don't see this happening all that much though. The reason being that for newer players, especially for new players, your access to sacred shards is super limited, and 15 sacred shards is just really, it's just sort of beyond reach. So I think the temptation to even spend, to buy sacred shards to try to reach that is just not going to be there. So I don't see it being a good money-making strategy for Plarium, really. This is really targeted at late-game players who can get lots of sacreds, or big spenders. And I don't know, I'm not sure. I don't expect to see too many. I do expect to see at least 1 more of these, if not 2 or 3 or 4. I expect much more of the guaranteed epics from sacred shards, a small number of sacred shards to guarantee yourself a really powerful epic champion. I think that's something that could definitely tempt people into spending, and I think it's likely to see lots of those. Let's look at void shards next, because ancients are the most interesting. Void shards, there are no guaranteed legendaries at all, which is no real surprise. A void shard is just a fancy ancient shards. They have the exact same chances of giving you the rarities of champions, exact same chances. However, void shards are much rarer, and void champions are, generally speaking, much more powerful. Void legendaries are like the pinnacle of what you can get in the game. So we've had no guaranteed void legendaries at all. We had, in June, we had Ursula the Mourner, an epic for 15, which is quite cheap relatively. In September, we had Cold Heart, a rare for 7. And then we had Madame Ceres in October for 30, an epic. And then we had an epic Inquisitor Shemael in December for 25. So my expectation, I think they would like to do the rares, but I don't know if there's enough good rares to do guaranteed events on like this. So I don't know if they will. We might see a repeat of Cold Heart, possibly. But I would expect something similar where maybe every 3 months there might be an epic for about 25 void shards in voids, in the void shard category. I think that's what I would expect, roughly speaking. For ancients is pretty interesting. The only epic guaranteed was in July. That was Geomancer for 40. And someone could remind, I think that they released Geomancer and he was incredibly overpowered. I think then they did a guaranteed summoning event. And then I think after that, a while after that, they nerfed him because he was crazy when he first came out. I feel like that's what happened. I mean, maybe they nerfed him before they did the guaranteed event. I feel like it was the other way around. I think they guaranteed event for Geomancer and then nerfed him after. But he's the only epic, and he's obviously, I mean, even right now, even after it, as you saw in my video, I mean, he's still super amazing, especially for Hydra. So yeah. In terms of the legendaries, in March, there was Countess Lix for 150, who's a really good champion. In September, there's Lady Kimmy for 150, who's an excellent champion. Then we had 2 in November with Genzin and Vizier for 120 and 111, respectively. Okay, so I'm getting some exciting text messages. Oh my god. I'm going to power through the video, though, and then I'm going to be checking my phone. Sorry. Let's focus up now, though. So yeah, this was interesting. These were the only ones at a discount, and both in the same month, almost within 2 weeks of each other, within 3 weeks of each other. Then we finally had Gamaran in December for 150 Ancient Shards. So this is pretty nutty, to be honest. So a couple of trends which I think are interesting. March was the first. Then there was a 6-month gap all the way up to September for Lady Kimmy. 6 months. But then for the last 4 months of the year, September, October, November, December, we had 1, 2, 3, 4. In fact, we had 3 of them in a row. So 4 guaranteed legendaries from Ancients in the last 4 months of the year. So I'm not exactly sure what to expect for 2022. On the one hand, you could do an overall average, add on February and March, and say, okay, we had 5 in these months, add on February, March. You could expect maybe 6 guaranteed legendaries from Ancient Shards in the year, roughly spaced 2 months apart. That would be a broad average. Then again, if you go by the last 4 months, you could say we could expect 1 per month. We could even have 2 in the same month. And I suspect that they're probably going to be 150 Ancient Shards as well. I feel like these 2 were discounted because they were so close together. And there were also, because I remember skipping Vizier because there was a 2 times summon event for blue shards after Vizier. And I regretted skipping Vizier then because I didn't get much in the 2 times event. I was going, man, I should have done Vizier, especially when they changed how Bommel worked a bit and Vizier became very useful. And then Hydra came out and all the rest. Would have liked to have a Vizier. But anyway, there you go. So interesting stuff. Yeah, again, I'm not 100% sure what to expect, but what I can certainly say is to expect, I would say, at least 6 guaranteed legendaries from Ancient Shards. Looks like a pretty safe bet. Okay, what I have done, I went through and I got you some of the guaranteed late game sources for Sacreds, Voids, and Ancients. And I want to give you my opinion, my take on this from a late game player, what you should do if you are free to play or low spender. And then also what you should do if you are free to play or low spend in early game, because it's quite different, okay? Excuse me. So for Sacreds, these are the Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare clan boss. So you've got a 6.1% chance to drop a Sacred from Nightmare, excuse me, and 13.67 per chest from Ultra Nightmare. You get 60 chests in a month. These are per month, right? Because you get 1 chest per day for 30 days. You get 2 chests per day from each difficulty, presuming your clan kills the difficulty. Okay. So on average, you get 3.7 Sacreds from Nightmare, 8.2 Sacreds from Ultra. You get 1 from your monthly quest, and you typically get 2 Sacred Shards from Doom Tower Hard. You can also get 1 from Bazaar, but Bazaar is very tough. Bazaar is very tough to get to it. I thought, let me see. I think he might have done the clan boss run today. Not there. Is he here? Is he here? Oh, no. No, he is. There he is. On Gold 1 mission. So this is the 3v3 mission to get into Gold in Tag Team Arena, which opens up the ability to buy the Sacred. This, I mean, level 100 and on the raid pass, dude, I feel you. I'm not in Gold right now either in 3v3. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculously hard. So yeah, I'm sort of assuming you won't even get that one. I'll not factor it in. Leaves us at still 15 Sacreds per month for an end game player. Free to play, guaranteed. And really the only way to get more is to buy them with money. For Voids then, actually funny enough, Nightmare difficulty clan boss gives you half as many Voids as it does Sacreds, which is pretty crazy. You only get 1.8 per month, which is nuts. Ultra Nightmare gives a lot more. You get 10.9 per month. You get 1 from your monthly quest. I think you typically get 2 from Doom Tower Normal for beating the higher end bosses. I think you often get 2 from Doom Tower Hard from doing the floors more so. 1 from your login rewards, and you get 2 from the Bazaar, which is doable for about 20 per month. And then for Ancients, you can also sometimes get Voids as well from events and tournaments. They're sometimes in there too, so you might get a few more. Not many though. Ancients, Nightmare, you get 12.8 on average. Ultra Nightmare, 30 on average. 6 from your weekly quest, because the week is only 5. The weekly quest only takes 5 days, so you get 6 in a 30-day month. Doom Tower, I'm not sure. I don't think there was any in this rotation 1 of Doom Tower. I feel like in the other Doom Tower rotations, they sometimes have a few Ancient Shards sprinkled in there. So maybe you get some more from that. 1 from your login rewards, repeatable login rewards. Get 5 from the marketplace, right? So your marketplace can have ancient shards in here. There'd be 5 potentially can show up per month. If you don't buy them straight away, by the way, they will return to the drop pool for that month, but there's a maximum of 5. They cost 200,000 silver a piece, and they're definitely worth buying. From the shop, you get 1 every week for free from the shop to encourage you to buy with real money. The bazaar, you can get 4, 1 per week. And clan activity, you can get some from the clan activity login chest every day. I don't know what the number is. I said on average maybe about 1 per month. That could be slightly more or less. I don't know. I feel like it's about 1 per month, but I'm not sure. And then your weekly arena chest, I say on average you get maybe about 4. I'm a little bit loosey-goosey with the ancients, I will admit. A little loosey-goosey. So an average of 67 per month. It just works out nicely for those the 3 and the 12 month totals, which I'm going to touch on next. So I left it at this. And of course, you can get a good chunk of ancients from events and tournaments. They can also drop from dungeons. So you will, typically speaking, if you're active, you will get more than 67 per month late game. But this is a good number to start off working with, right? It's a good number to start working with. Okay, if we break this down then for your shard pulls, this is probably a bit intimidating, but let's take a look at it. Let's actually look at the 1 year section. Let's look at the 1 year section. How many can you expect to get per year? So this, on average, actually breaks down to 180 sacred shards per year if you are late game. Okay, 180. If you pull those sacreds during 2 times events, you'd end up with 158 epics and about 21 legendaries. If you pull them out of the 2 times events, about 169 epics and about maybe 10 or 11 legendaries, yeah? For voids, you get 240 void shards. If you pull them only during 2 times events, you get 38 epics, only 2.4 legendary void legendaries. If you pull out of 2 times events, you get 19 void shards and 1 void legendary. And again, bear in mind, guys, this is why void legendaries are so rare. This is basically the maximum void shards that you can get without paying money in this game. This is how little of the void legendaries you get. And then we have the ancients, which actually works out as being way less than I'd anticipated. Way less than I anticipated. If you pull them during 2 times events, you would on average get 8 legendaries and 128 epics. If you pull them outside of 2 times events, you get 4 legendaries and 64 epics, right? So actually way less than I thought. So your biggest source of legendaries by far will be from sacred shards. They'll give you the most legendaries overall over the long term. Ancients give you a few, and then voids are super rare. So right now, off the bat, I can tell you that for me, I will only pull voids during 2 times events, right? Because void legendaries are really required, certainly for PvP in this game. Void legendaries are really required to compete at the top end and to push stuff kind of harder and faster because they are typically the best champions in the game. I don't think it's really worth using them out of 2 times events. You just want to try get as many as you can because you're barely going to get any. So just to up your chances of getting a top tier void legendary, changing your account is not only fun, but probably the most effective way to do it. So I'm going to say voids only in 2 times events. Your chances are still terrible, but it's better than nothing, okay? Well, I also didn't factor in Mercy Timer, but generally speaking, Mercy Timer I don't think is ever really going to impact you all that much, actually. It doesn't impact you that much. It's more a token offering, I feel. I'll point that out. Someone could dive more in-depth in the mats if you wanted in the comments. I'd actually kind of like to know if you do. But let's look at Sacreds and Ancients more in advance. And now the thing I want to draw your attention to are these. Check out these screenshots from my last few videos. So first of all, this is the 2 times event that we just had at the weekend. So this is a 2 times summoning event for sacred shards, okay? And these are the amount of points that you can get. If we jump back here really fast, sorry to jump around a little bit here, but this is why I put up these 6-week chunks here, because you get a 2 times summoning event for each shard type every 6 weeks, right? It will go 2 times sacred, summon rush, 2 times void, summon rush, 2 times ancient, summon rush, back to the start. Okay, that's your rough gist, your rough path through the summoning events. So every 6 weeks, you'd go into your 2 times events, and these are roughly speaking be the amount of shards you'd expect. So 22 sacreds end game, 30 voids end game, and 100 ancients, probably more than that, a little bit more end game, right? And these would be the results, what you would actually expect to pull, right? So maybe a couple of legendaries with sacreds. I'm not really expecting much from voids, and maybe 1 legendary, even with 100 ancients, yeah? So that's what I'm working off of there. I'm going to jump back to this. Okay. This is our 2-time event. And here's the thing. For sacred shards, yeah, let's look at sacreds first. For sacred shards, you get 250 points for each epic and 500 points for a legendary. And if we are going to be getting, let's say 20 epics and 2 legendaries, 20 times 250 is 5,000, and then 500 times 2 is 1,000. So we're talking 6,000 points using all of our sacred shards every 6 weeks. It's only just about enough to max out that 2 times event, right? So you have to be either lucky and getting extra ancients or buying a little bit to hit that maximum reward. So if you want to max out these rewards, you're really talking about maxing out on your guaranteed sort of free resources here without paying. So that's worth bearing in mind. We jump into Summon Rush. There's 2, I think, crucial types of Summon Rush, okay? So there's your out of event Summon Rush, out of fusion Summon Rush, not in a fusion, where these are your rewards. Okay, so there's actually 1, 2, 3 5-star chickens, 1, 2, 3, 4 legendary books, and then a feast, right, in this event for 7,500 points. If we compare that to during a fusion, there's 1, 2 5-star chickens, 3 legendary books, and a feast. Basically, what's happening here is that one of the legendary books and one of the 5-star chickens are each removed to put in a rare reward for a fusion, and then an epic reward for a fusion. These are for a traditional fusion event where you get a set of 4 rares, fuse it into an epic. You have to do that for a set of 4 epics and fuse them into a legendary, like with Datura Rhymehide here. With a fragment event, it would typically be a small set of fragments and a big set of fragments, something like that. Yeah. So that's kind of how that works out. If you compare them side by side, we compare it to this one, right? So this and this. You can see that basically these rewards sort of get pushed up a bit to make space for the rare and for the epic. So that's sort of how that works out. But it's interesting. How does it break down if you compare the two? How does it break down? And we'll look at the ancients then after. Let me zoom in here. Oh God, window's too small. I should grab this. We'll come back to this. Don't look at it. Spoilers. Look at this. Okay, so what I did was I said, okay, over a year with 180 ancients, sacreds, what are we gonna get? So if you summon during those summon rush during the fusions, where you're losing some rewards, but it's helping you to complete a fusion, makes the fusions potentially significantly easier. You would get on average 169 epics, about 10.8 legendaries. You get 36 legendary books, 24 5-star chickens, and 12 feasts, right? Because you have a summon rush event during a fusion roughly every month. If you do that during a 2 times event to compare, you get 158 epics, so less epics, slightly, but a good chunk more legendary champions, but you lose out. Instead of 36 legendary books, you get 16. You lose out on 20. Instead of 24 5-star chickens, you'd only get 8. You lose out on, 16. Instead of 12 feasts, so taking 12 rank 5 champions all the way up to rank 6 in one fell swoop, basically 5 5-star chickens apiece, you get none. If you compare it to a regular summon rush event, okay, again, maxing out rewards every time, you'd actually be getting 48 legendary books per year, 36 rank 5 chickens, and 12 feasts. You compare that to the to the 2 times, and it's a pretty stark difference, right? It's a pretty stark difference. So this leads me to my conclusion for sacreds. Sorry, my nose is itchy. For me, for sacred shards, my approach is actually, seeing as there's not many legendary champion events, guaranteed events for sacreds, I don't think that's worthwhile. For me, as you can see by the fact we just had a 2 times event, and I ain't pull my sacreds. For me, end game, I think the correct choice, end game, the correct choice is to actually save your sacreds for summon rush events. If you can have enough for regular summon rush events, it's the best. And if you can skip the fusion ones and just do regular summon rush, I think it's actually more worthwhile. You lose out on a lot of legendaries, which is a concern, but you get a lot more legendary books and rank 5 chickens, so you can get a lot more functional legendary champions. It's a little bit of a tough call, right? It lowers your chances of getting, you might need a key legendary. Like, for example, I'd love a Duchess, for example. I'm really lessening my chances of getting Duchess because that's, 11, 12 more chances at potentially getting Duchess that I'm not going to get. It also is going to make your faction guardians worse. So this is another concern, right? Your faction guardians, you need duplicates. I've got a few. I actually have a bunch of Skinwalker duplicates, but you're not going to get as many duplicates. So that's also a concern. But what you do get is you do get more guarantee in terms of legendary books and ranking up champions. So it's a bit of a toss-up. Which one do you value more? Let me know in the comments below. For me, I'm leaning more towards Summon Rush, but it's hard to say. I think certainly once your Faction Guardians is filled up, once your Faction Guardians are full or mostly full, I think you'd be crazy to pull during 2 times at endgame, and you should be pulling during Summon Rush. This is for endgame. Now for early game or mid-game players, I think it's the opposite. You'd be crazy to pull during Summon Rush, and you really want to pull during 2 times. Why is that? The reason is very simple, that to actually get the worthwhile rewards from a Summon Rush event, look at this, basically everything up to 3,100. Until you get to 3,100 points, the rest of these rewards are pretty crap. They're pretty pants. They're nice, but they're just nice. That's it. It's really when you get above this number that it gets good, okay? Above this number is where it gets good, which requires you to have at least 6 sacred shards. And really you want to save them up. If you were only getting 6 sacred shards for each Summon Rush, you'd want to wait 3 Summon Rushes, save 18, and then spend 15 to get the max rewards, right? It's probably not worth waiting that long because, again, your ability to get these shards is pretty low. Like, if you're not clearing Ultra Nightmare and you can't beat Doom Tower, you're going to get 1 Sacred Shard per month, and then maybe from Nightmare you might get another 3, right? So let's say you get 4 Sacreds per month. It could, it would take you 3 or 4 months to even partake in a Summon Rush. Don't know if that's worthwhile. I don't know if that's worthwhile. So yeah, I wouldn't super recommend it. If you're not doing Nightmare, it's certainly not worth it. Just try get some epics, your early game. Try get some epics to boost your account a bit. Same thing then for, so that's basically my recommendation for Sacreds. Now, when we go to your Ancient Shards and we look at those guaranteed events, this is pretty stark as well. And this goes back to the Murder Inc. thing. When we look at guaranteed events versus 2 times events, right? Pulling in guaranteed events, this for me is the biggest difference. You get 59 epics compared to 128 epics from 2 times. So you're missing out. If you pull only for those 150 shards for a guaranteed legendary, you're going to lose out on a butt ton of epic champions. And epic champions in this game are very good. And if you are early game, free to play, whatever, until you're pretty far into the late game and you don't need more epics, this is going to cripple your account, right? You're going to lose out on the potential for good epics that can go into your Hydra teams, your Doom Tower teams. Faction Wars is going to be crippled. Your dungeon progression is probably going to be crippled. Everything's going to be crippled. Your Faction Guardians for epics, which is reasonable to fill, right? In a year, you're going to cripple that as well. It's absolutely not worth it for that alone. Interestingly, when it comes to legendaries, you get more pulling in guaranteed events, right? Because on average, so basically what's happening here is we go to the blue shards, yeah? From pulling out of the 2 times events, you'll pull 4 legendaries. So you're going to be 4 behind, but because you'll have 5 150 Ancient Shard guaranteed events, you get +5. So you actually end up at 9. So yeah, funny enough, you actually get more legendaries from the guaranteed events. You do. You get more legendaries. You do. You'll also miss out, though, on legendary books from the events that overlap 2 times. Guaranteed events are usually more standalone. So maybe this is slightly unfair if they ever do put like a Summon Rush or a Champion Chase overlapping guaranteed events. They usually don't, though. So you're going to lose out on legendary books. You're going to lose out on a few 5-star chickens. And I don't think there's ever feasts included. That might change, but there hasn't been so far. But yeah, my opinion on this, again, is if you are late game, if you are a late game player, so if you're in a circumstance like me, where I'm going, okay, I actually have most epics in the game. I have most of them. And apart from Lizardman, and Dark Elves a bit here and Shadowkin, but apart from that, my epic Faction Guardians are pretty full. Okay? When you consider that stuff, in my situation, this potentially becomes something that's possibly interesting, because instead of 8 random legendaries, I could get 4 random legendaries and then 5 specific ones that I might actually like, right? Or I think a wise thing to do as a late game player might be to always have 150 Ancient Shards, always kept, never go below that 150. You're saving that for your next guaranteed legendary event. And then if it's a crappy legendary, so if I go back to the original list, right? If I go to this, okay, if it comes up as Gamaran, I go, I don't want him, skip. Not going to do it. I might pull those during a 2 times event instead. Whereas if it comes up and it's frickin' Lady Kimmy, pull, baby. I'm going for Lady Kimmy, guaranteed. You can basically pick and choose, go, yeah, this champion's OP, I want them, spend the 150 or save it. I think that is the wise way to do it. That's the wise way to do it. You lose out on some legendary books and chickens, but I think if you can get a guaranteed really strong legendary, it's probably worthwhile. So for late game, I think that's worthwhile. For early game, I think the lack of epics and the lack of legendary books and all that stuff is really, really going to punish your account. To be fair, early game, you're probably not going to get these things. Like you might get none because you don't have enough shards for each event. But yeah, you would still get more legendaries. So you still get that roughly that amount of legendaries per shard. I think it's more worthwhile, and the epics per shard. So yeah, those are my thoughts. In summary, having looked at it in detail, my recommendations for a late game free-to-play or low spender, I think you've got to weigh up the trade-off, Summon Rush versus 2x event. With Summon Rush, you get way more resources to develop your champions. With 2x event, you will get more legendaries. For me, I think it's a tough trade-up. I personally fall on the side of Summon Rush, though, more so. I think that getting the legendary books is more important. I've got really good legendaries that need books to work. So, I'd rather guarantee the value on my good legendaries than roll the dice and potentially get crappy ones. That's what I think. But I could see it going either way. And then for your ancient shard, and then for early game players, because you can't maximize Summon Rush early game, I just go for 2x events with your sacreds. I think that's the way to go to just get better champions quicker. Then for ancients, again, if you are late game, free to play or low spend, I think once you're late game, going for the guaranteed legendaries, or at least saving 150 ancient shards, always having 150 ancient shards ready for whenever there is a guaranteed event for an OP legendary. I think that's very worthwhile because they do put good ones there. I think that's very, very worthwhile. And skipping some 2x events so you're able to do that, I would recommend it late game, 100%. But if you're early or mid game free to play, I think it's a terrible idea because simply the lack of epic champions is going to cripple your account, and it's going to slow down your progression, and you won't be able to get to this late game, end game point half as quickly as you could otherwise. So that's what I think. Guys, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know, what do you think of like these rewards and how they compare? What would you aim for? What would you aim for? Let me know, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.